Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Rafa Amira Winandari from Group 3. With my friend Hikmah Micil Pawestri and Dian Ayu Kurniawati, we're going to explain about true or false. There are many situations which call for either or decisions, such as deciding whether a specific solution is right or wrong, whether to continue or to stop, whether to use a singular or plural construction, and so on. For such situations, the true-false items is an ideal measuring device. True-false test items. Select or supply. True-false questions require the students to select a response true or false that shows recognition of correct or incorrect information that is presented to them. These are included among the items that are called selection. In contrast to supply items in which the student must supply the correct information. Fourth choice. Another term applied to true-false items is fourth choice, because the student must choose between two possible answers. Educational objectives that specify the student will identify, select, and recognize material are appropriately targeted to either fourth choice questions or more complex matching or multiple choice questions. Much maligned and abused. Many educators feel that true-false test items serve little or no measurement purposes because true-false items are subject to guessing. In general, individual true-false items are less discriminating than individual multiple-choice items. There is a tendency to write trivial true-false items, which leads students to verbatim memorizations. At the same time, no diagnostic information is available from incorrect responses to true-false items. Finally, true-false items are not amenable to concepts that cannot be formulated as propositions. In the most basic format, true-false questions are those in which a statement is presented and the student indicates in some manner whether the statement is true or false. In other words, there are only two possible responses for each item, and the student chooses between them. True-false questions are well suited for testing student recall or comprehension. Students can generally respond to many questions covering a lot of content in a fairly short amount of time. From the teacher's perspective, true-false questions can be written quickly. They are easy to score because they can be objectively scored. The scores are more reliable than for items that are at least partially dependent on the teacher's judgment. Section summary. The section summary is good for knowledge level content, evaluating student understanding of popular misconceptions and concepts with two logical responses. The advantages is can test large amounts of content. Students can answer 3 to 4 questions per minute. The disadvantages is they are easy. Students have a 50-50 chance of getting the right answer by guessing. Need a large number of items for high reliability. Summarizing the argument for the value of true-false test items. The essence of educational achievement is the command of usable verbal knowledge. All verbal knowledge can be expressed in proportions. A proportion is any sentence that can be said to be true or false. The extent of students' command of a particular area of knowledge is indicated by their success in judging the truth or falsity of propositions related to it. Since true-false questions tend to be either extremely easy or extremely difficult, they do not discriminate between students of varying ability as well as other types of questions do. Making the case for true-false items. The number one is versatility. True-false items are adaptable to the measurement of a wide variety of learning outcomes. Number two, scoring accuracy and economy. Scoring keys can be economically applied by machine or clerical assistants. Number three, reliability. True-false tests that are highly reliable can be constructed. Number four, amenable to item analysis. True-false items are amenable to item analysis by means of which they can be improved. Number five, efficiency. More test response can be obtained from a given amount of written material and in a given amount of time than from other forms. Number six, true-false items are useful in testing misconceptions. Number seven, true-false items can be expressed in few words, making them less dependent on reading ability. Suggestion for writing true-false test items. Keep language as simple and clear as possible. Be aware that extremely long or complicated statements will test reading skill rather than content knowledge. Require students to circle or underline a type T or F rather than to fill in a T or F next to the statement, thus avoiding having to interpret confusing handwriting. If a proposition expresses a relationship, such as cause and effect or premise and conclusion, present the correct part of the statement first and vary the truth or falsity of the second part. Make true and false items of approximately equal average length throughout the test. Randomize the sequence of true and false statements. Make use of popular misconceptions or beliefs as false statements. Write items so that the incorrect response is more attractive to those without the specialized knowledge being tested. Attention students, true-false test taking tips. When you do not know or cannot remember information to determine the truth of a statement, assume that it is true. There are generally more true questions or true-false exams than false questions because instructors tend to emphasize true questions. If there is specific detail in the statement, it may also tend to be true. For example, the statement, there are 980 endangered species worldwide, has specific detail and is likely to be true. Look for extreme modifiers that tend to make the question false. Extreme modifiers such as always, all, never, or only make it more likely that the question is false. Identify qualifiers that tend to make the question true. Qualifiers, seldom or often many, make the question more likely true. Questions that state a reason tend to be false. Words in the statement that cause justification or reasons, like signs, because, when, if, tend to make the statement false because they bring in a reason that is incorrect or incomplete.
Warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Hikmah Mijil Pawestri. My student number is 31. So now I will continue the material about true-false. In this section, we will learn about variation in writing true-false test item. In this variation, true-false statements are presented with a keyword of brief phrase that is underlined. It is not enough that a student correctly identify a statement as being false. To receive credit for a statement labeled false, the student must also supply the correct word or phrase which, when used to replace the underlined part of the statement, make the statement a true one. This type of item is more true in determining whether students actually know the information that is presented in the false statements. While students might correctly just that a statement is false, no credit will be given unless the student could change the statement to a true one by writing words or words to replace underlined words. The teacher decides what word or phrase can be changed in the sentence. If students were instructed only to make the statement a true statement, they would have the liberty of completely rewriting the statement so that the teacher may not be able to determine whether or not the student understood what was wrong with the original statements. If, however, the underlined word or phrase is one that can be changed to opposite, it loses that advantage over the simple true-false question, because all the student has to know is that the statement is false and change is to is not. In the variations in writing true-false test item is the yes-no variation and the A-B variation. In the yes-no variation, the student responds to each item by writing, circling, or indicating yes-no rather than true-false. In the A-B variation, the example below show a question for which the same two answers apply. The answers are categories of content rather than true-false or yes-no. This is another form of fourth choice question because for each item, the student must choose between A or B. A and B. And in the final analysis, is the true-false test is probably the best known of the various types of objective test items. It is the easiest to construct and at the same time the most obvious. The students learn the weaknesses that are inherent in many such items and are able to obtain high scores by noting the grammatical construction, the choice of words or other clues. The true-false test can be used effectively as an instructional test to promote interest and introduce points for discussion. This is perhaps the most important use for the plain true-false item. It is a valuable type of test to use in giving short daily quizzes that may be used to motivate the student for a new assignment, to review a previous lessons, to locate points to be retaught, or to introduce controversial points for class discussion. And the next slide is matching test items. Matching questions provide a most efficient way to test knowledge in courses in which events, dates, name, and place are important. Matching questions are also appropriate for the science in which numerous experiments, experimenters, results, and special terms and definitions have to be remembered. And this is the section summary of matching test items. It is good for knowledge level and some comprehension levels. And the types is terms with definitions, phrases with other phrases, causes with effects, part with larger units, and problems with solutions. And it has advantage is maximum coverage at knowledge level in a minimum amount of speech or prep time, and valuable in content areas that have a lot of facts. Also, it have a disadvantage is time consuming for students and may not be appropriate for higher levels of learning.
Okay, now about the suggestion for writing matching test items. First, about the include direction, which clearly states the basis for matching the stimuli with the responses. Explain whether or not a response can be used more than once and indicate where to write the answer. Undesirable direction match the following. Desirable on the line to the left of each identifying location and characteristic in column 1, write the letter of the country in column 2 that is best defined. Its county in column 2 may be used more than once. Jadi, dalam hal ini bahwa arahan atau petunjuk yang digunakan harus jelas dan mendetail. Tidak hanya menjelaskan tentang match the following, tapi harus menjelaskan secara detail tentang kolom 1 dan kolom 2 sehingga tidak membingungkan. Selanjutnya, Use only items that share the same foundation of information. Unrelated topics included in the same matching item may allow for obvious match and mismatches. Undesirable direction. Match the following: 1. Water, 2. Discovered radium, 3. Salt, 4. Ammonia, 5. Air of the first. Dan untuk pilihannya ada Nazi, Fermi, NH3, dan lain-lain, serta desirable direction on the line to the left of each compound in column 1. Write the letter of the compound's formula presented in column 2. Use each formula only once. Column 1, blah 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 water. Selanjutnya blah 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 salt, blah 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 ammonia, blah 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 sulfuric acid. Dan column 2 pilihannya ada H2, HCl, NaCl, H2O, dan lainnya. Jadi dalam hal ini bahwa item atau sesuatu yang digunakan harus memiliki dasar yang sama, sehingga tidak boleh berbeda satu sama lainnya. Selanjutnya, number 3, about the avoid grammatical or other clues to the correct responses. Undesirable direction, match the following in order to complete the sentence on the left. Blah blah blah. Plato incited that government was. Blah blah blah. Number 2, Machiavelli wrote about achieving political. Dan selanjutnya untuk desirable direction on the line to the left of each statement, write the letter of the philosopher from the right hand column that this statement describes. Use each philosopher once. Blah 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 blah. Once, Dutch government was a sense requiring export. Number 2, describe method of achieving political unity. Number 3, founded communist. Dan selanjutnya untuk pilihannya ada Hobbes, Marx, Machiavelli, dan Durkheim serta Plato. Jadi number 3 ini menjelaskan tentang pemilihan bahasa atau petunjuk jawabannya itu harus benar dan harus jelas, sehingga tidak membingungkan. Jadi dalam pilihannya untuk petunjuk jawabannya harus sesuai dan harus jelas. Selanjutnya number 4, the column of stimulus on the left should set the question clearly. Undesirable direction, match the following. Blah blah blah, city delivers, blah blah blah, hunter gatherers, blah blah blah, pastoral nomads. Dan untuk pilihannya ada wild animals, farm, apartment buildings. Desirable direction, on the land to the left of its definition, write the letter of the terms in the right hand column that is divided. Use each term only once. Jadi seperti contohnya itu menjelaskan bahwa nomor 4 ini kolom yang sebelah kiri itu harus jelas dan dibuat sejelas mungkin, jangan sampai ada rancu atau ketidakjelasan. Jadi kolom yang sebelah kiri kan menjelaskan tentang soal, jadi harus jelas dan tidak rancu untuk menentukan jawabannya. Selanjutnya, remember 1. Review your teaching objective to make sure that a matching component is approached. Selanjutnya, when possible, reduce the amount of reading time by including only short phrases or single words in the response list. And then, use the more involved expression in the STEM and keep the responses short and simple. And arrange the list of responses in some systematic order, if possible, chronological alphabet. And the last, make sure that there are never multiple correct responses for on STEM responses may be used as the correct answer for more than one. And the last, attention student, matching test taking tips. First, read the direction. There are usually two lists that need to be matched. Take a look of both lists to get a feel for the relationship and building your confidence. Use one list as a starting point and go through the second list to find a match. This process organizes your thinking. It will also expand your answer because you can become familiar with the second list and will be able to go straight to a match that you saw when looking through the list a previous time. And then make sure the entire list before selecting a match. If you make a match with the first likely answer, you may make an error because an answer later in the list may be more correct. Cross over items on the second list when you are certain that you have a match. This seems simplistic, but it helps you feel confident and stay organized. Do not guess until all absolute matches have been met. If you guess early in the process, you will likely eliminate answers that could be used correctly for a later choice. Okay, so this is end of our presentation. Thank you for your attention and see you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.